Welcome to this episode of Profile Editions. Today we're joined by Sophie Lydia Perkins, who will be talking about her role as a senior building surveyor. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, and thank
Hi,
you for having me.
you're all the welcome. Can we start with what route did you take into engineering?
Yes, I took the apprenticeship route into engineering.
Right,
I started straight from my A levels. I did BTEC in construction and civil engineering at Gloucestershire College, and then did a higher national certificate after that in construction in the built environment. And following that, I then did part-time degree in building surveying, so a little bit more specialist.
yeah,
And then I became chartered. So I did the apprenticeship route whilst working the whole time, and
right,
it was hard, but really rewarding and
yeah,
totally worth it.
good. So why did you actually choose a career in STEM and engineering?
As a child, I just absolutely loved making dens. Like, I was absolutely obsessed.
Right,
I liked dens. I was really curious about the world, about the built environment around me. And I wanted to make a physical difference. And I didn't quite know exactly where in engineering that was going to be
yeah,
when I was younger. So it wasn't like I always wanted to be a building surveyor. I didn't actually know about that job. Um, but yeah, I wanted to do something that was problem solving. I can't sit still, but I also did very well at school. So I wanted to do something that used my mind, but also was physical and out and about as well.
yeah,
And I don't know if many other people get this, but I do. When I go into a building and it's built really well, or there's the lighting's right, or it hits all the senses, I get like a really good feeling
right, yeah,
inside. And I always want
yeah,
to know why that is. When you go into a fantastic building, amazing structures in London, for example,
yeah.
and you think, oh, how was that done? And I really wanted to be a part of it, and that's what got me into it.
Right, okay, that's fantastic. Yeah. So what skills do you think are needed to become a building surveyor?
So you need a really wide range of skills. If I'm honest with you, we're a jack of all trades, master of none in a way. So
Right, okay.
you need to know about all of the different disciplines within construction and engineering
Yeah,
in the built environment sector to be able to be a building surveyor. So, for example, I need to know about the structure of a building, but I also need to know about the building services of a building, so
right.
mechanical, electrical, public health. I need to understand the acoustic side, and then you also have to be really sympathetic for conservation, listed heritage, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you need to know about everything, which is kind of why I love it. So skills, maths, science, English are really important, but
yeah,
if you're stronger in one than the other, you can get through. That's fine. You also need to be creative. Interestingly, I have a passion for art, and I've used that through my job and channeled that through my job,
right.
because your customers, they really want to have something that looks good at the
Yeah,
end
yeah,
product, and
yeah,
looking at that. So yeah, and be a really good problem solver. You'll be solving problems all day. So but I would say that's a high level introduction into your skills that you need, but
yeah,
it does vary.
yeah. So what does your role actually entail?
So my role entails, so building surveying is quite broad. There are different types of surveyors.
Yeah,
For me, I'm a chartered building surveyor and a chartered building engineer, and I work mostly on construction projects. So
right,
I take a client brief and I take it all the way through from the briefing and designing conception all the way through to completion, and then
right.
maintenance of the building as well.
Okay,
So unlike other engineers that may just do a design part of a project, I'll work throughout the design and
right,
lead a multidisciplinary team. And then I'll also then be involved with the construction management. So managing a contract, the building contracts, to looking at the progress management and assessing the quality of works. So
right.
you have
Yeah,
to have the technical skills, but also the contract and have really good legal understanding and skills, which you'll get taught, don't worry. And then once the building's handed over, we don't walk away like a lot of people. We'll
yeah,
then manage the maintenance of a
right.
building as well,
Yeah,
all the way to when it gets demolished. So that's what I do in my particular building surveying role, but there are other building surveying roles. Some people know what a building surveyor is if they've sold their house and someone's come to do a survey on their house, to look at if there's anything that would prevent you from buying a new property. So I'm qualified to do that as well as part of my chartership. I just don't do that kind of work. So have a look on the RICS website and you'll be able to find out the different types.
So for you, how much time do you spend in the office and how much time are you actually on site then? I suppose it depends whereabouts within the construction phase it is.
It does, it depends on the projects, but I get lots and lots of projects, so I can even if one project's maybe at the design stage, I've always got one that's on site at the same time, which is really great. So I do about a 50-50. Some days I'll be on site all day, but usually I'll come into the office or work from home as well, check my emails, get all my paperwork up together, and then the afternoon will be spent on site. So that could be because I'm surveying something, so I'm looking at a property and they want a new master plan for that area, or it could be that I'm actually managing construction work. So I like to keep my client portfolio a bit varied so you can do a bit of everything. I do travel abroad as well. So two of my favourite trips, one was the Falkland Islands, which is really, really far away and really hard to get to. And I went over there to look at their educational estate because they needed it to be expanded, and that was so interesting. And I needed to apply my existing knowledge to an area where it's very different. So how would you even get construction workers there? What materials do they have? All the different challenges that they have. I've also went to last year went to Azerbaijan. It was a very similar job actually, but whilst you're there you have a bit of fun as well, and you take in the culture and you take in that creativity and turn that into your design work as well. So that would mean that I would be out all week rather than in the office. It's not just a 9 to 5, you can do lots with it.
So I guess there's lots of health and safety procedures for different sites, for different site conditions. Can you explain the importance of having them? And do you need to undertake site-specific training?
Health and safety is so important, and it does come first. So if it's not safe, don't go, or whatever it is, and that's looking after yourself and looking after others as well. So if you're on site and you see some unsafe behaviour, you can address it. In terms of qualifications, have you heard of the CSCS card? Construction Skills Certification Scheme. So I need to have a professional card in order for me to attend most sites. So it does depend on the site as to if they'll accept it or not. So some sites say you don't need one, but mostly you do, and that is a qualification in itself. But to become chartered, or whatever engineering degree you do, I would imagine you would cover health and safety. I certainly did, and it was a very big topic, and I wouldn't have become a chartered surveyor and engineer without my health and safety knowledge. The other thing is, because I work in construction, so an area of engineering, we have our own health and safety legislation, because it needs to be taken above and beyond the Health and Safety at Work Act, which is the Construction Design and Management Regulations 2015. They're very strict, you need to follow them, and they apply to all construction works. So that is something specific to my job as well.
So what's the most challenging part of being a building surveyor?
The most challenging part is that you do need to know an awful lot. As I said, you don't have to be an expert in everything, because that's where your team comes from, and someone could specialise in something really specific. But you do need to know about all the different disciplines. So if I was, say, a structural engineer, I may be very focused on that specific part of the building and then collaborate with others, whereas a building surveyor, you need to understand it to a further degree than just your specialism, because you will be managing that design. So I think the hardest bit is knowing a bit about everything, and it just comes with experience. And it's fun though at the same time. I love learning new things, and I won't always be doing that. Even though I've stopped studying, I'm still learning. So for you, what's the most rewarding part of your job? I think the most rewarding part is making a difference. So
Right.
making a difference to the world around me. When your project comes alive, it's absolutely amazing. Sometimes you get what may be considered quite boring projects, not the multi-million-pound ones, just refurbishing a
Yeah.
laboratory for a team that work in there at a university. But seeing the difference that you make, that will then mean that they can do science experiments that they couldn't do before, because
Yeah.
you've increased the loading of the floor and given them the right equipment and the right environment, is totally worth it. And I get to come home and say I've done that. I have worked on some big projects as well. For example, airports. And when I go on
Yeah.
holiday, I can say, I did this project, that was me. So
Yes.
it
Yeah.
is good when you get one that people know what you're talking about, that
Yeah.
it's so great to make a difference. It really
Yeah.
is.
So what advice would you give a future building surveyor?
My advice would be to be curious and ambitious,
Yeah.
and don't expect the path to be linear. So just because you may not have maybe the right A level, if you're coming in an early stage, don't worry, just get your foot in the door, start your qualification process. You may also not know what type of engineering you want to do, but you've got an engineering mind.
Yeah.
And again, just get on with it and you will find your way. I promise you. Some people start in one degree and then they realize they want to do something else, which you can do. There's a lack of people in our industry and there's so much opportunity. So keep that curiosity around you. I actually started in building control, which is a slightly different role to what I do now, but that was what was available at the time.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where the apprenticeship was, and I found my way, and I also learned a lot about other stuff as well. So just really, really go for it, be open-minded, and you can always transfer to something else within engineering.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously it's important that we attract new talent into our industry, into the built environment, into STEM. What message would you give to young people to attract them to think about a career in STEM?
You won't regret it. It is so much fun. It's so interesting. You get to go out and about. You get to make a difference to the world. You can earn a lot of money as well. I know money can be
Yeah.
enticing,
Yeah.
but you can spend your whole career doing lots of different things. I do a job within a job, so I'm working for my employer. I'll start one project, I'll finish it, and rather than be doing the same thing every day, I'm then working from on a nuclear power station, then an airport, then a
Yeah.
university,
Yeah. Yeah.
then I'm flying to the Falkland Islands. So um, it is the best industry to be in, and you will have so much fun and make lots of friends as well. So
Yeah.
I would say it's the best.
Yeah. And finally, just a general question to help the students. Do you have any interview tips that you've used? Because obviously interviews can be quite nerve-wracking for people. Do you use any tips, or could you share any tips that you'd give a young person?
Absolutely. I've done lots of interviews in my time, and the first one can actually be the scariest. Once you've done it
Yeah.
once, actually you've done it then, and it become a lot easier. You need to be yourself. Some of the mistakes I've made, that hopefully if I tell you, you don't have to make the same mistakes, is trying to be someone else.
Yeah.
So when I applied for my job, I knew that there wasn't any girls in the team. So I tried to be like a man and I tried to not be myself. And then in the end, I opened up and just talked about my own strengths and talents and who I was. And that was the best thing. And that made me unique. That will make you unique. And that
Yeah.
will make you someone that is really employable. If you try and be someone else, or you try and be what you think fits, and they won't bias, and you aren't being unique then. So
Yeah.
try and do that. The other thing is that you can predict what you're going to be asked. If you look at the job spec, you can create questions from each of the items.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can actually really prepare. It doesn't need to be a surprise what you're asked.
Yeah.
So I would say think about the possible questions that could come from each criteria. I did that and I felt really prepared, and I've got every job that I've applied for so far. So
Fantastic.
it is worth the
Yeah.
research.
Yeah. It works. Yeah. Sophie, that's it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you so much, and I hope this has helped you consider a career in engineering.